Welcome to the Late Night Race Review.
Yeah, well done everyone. Beautiful 1-2. That was great. Ish. Yeah. Thanks everyone. Amazing work. Just keep it up.
Oh man, I got hit like crazy. Absolute fucking idiots.
Don't forget to support the podcast by hitting those like, follow and subscribe buttons.
Welcome on into the Late Night Race Review. My name is Aidan Scott, and joining me today, as always, is Isidro Gonçalves and our panelist from across the pond, Damien Scott. How are you chaps doing this evening?
Great. It's been a great weekend.
Going well. Good race. Lots to talk about.
Oh, lots to talk about. You sure? I didn't really feel that there was a lot to talk about. I'm only kidding. But no, that's good to hear, chaps. That's good to hear. So, folks, today the hills weren't alive with the sound of music, but more so the hills were alive with the smell of carbon fiber brake discs on fire, the sounds of RedBull cars getting demolished, and the smell of sweaty bum cheeks, because pretty much Fernando Alonso was complaining about his hot butt cheeks before the race started. Carlos Sainz was also feeling the heat, quite literally. That's right, folks. This weekend we had the Austrian Grand Prix, or for you sim racers, that one track that gives you pure anxiety due to the amount of track limits that you'll probably rack up at the last corner. Ah yes, the Red Bull Ring. Now, before we unpack all of the action, we actually do have some F1 news to talk about, folks. Firstly, the F1 movie was released this week, and after seeing it, I have to say it was actually pretty good. Have you guys seen it already? Damien, I think I did see you mention that you went to go see it. What did you think of it?
Yes, I saw it a couple of nights ago. Yeah, it was really good. I think it's that my wife isn't really, I suppose she wouldn't be an F1 fan. She doesn't mind it, but she was like, wow, this was fantastic. Maybe more to do with Brad Pitt, I don't know, but yeah, it was great fun. Yeah, it was like, yeah, Top Gun on the ground in a race car. That was, I think the plot was pretty much the same, but yeah, it was really good, really enjoyable, and yeah, a lot better than I thought it was going to be, I have to say.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Isidro, have you seen the F1 movie yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, right. Well, we won't say anything. We won't spoil anything.
No
Yeah, that actually kind of takes away my first talking point. I better scratch that out now. But anyway, moving on from that now, not a spoiler, but it actually did come out in the, if you want to say F1 news circle or whatever it was, Brad Pitt actually went from the F1 movie to driving a McLaren Formula One car. This guy is actually just following in the footsteps of Tom Cruise at this stage. I mean, Tom Cruise, you see him there in Top Gun Maverick and all the Top Gun movies. He can actually fly planes in real life. And then you have Brad Pitt out here driving a McLaren car around Coda. I don't know if you guys seen the footage of that, but I know Sky Sports did say, I think next weekend or something like that at Silverstone, they're going to do like a whole like segment of him actually doing that. But he actually managed to do it. He drove around the track in a Formula One car. That is so cool. Now, I know obviously they had to do that for the F1 movie, but you know, like I thought like the car that maybe that they were using for the movie would have been a little bit different to like all the other cars that were going around them in the shots and everything like that. But yeah, he actually he drove a Formula One car. But moving on from that, and enough of Brad Pitt and Hollywood, we do need to talk about probably one of the biggest talking points this weekend, especially for all of our Irish listeners. Alex Dunn drove a Formula One car for the very first time during Free Practice 1. I have to give him a round of applause for that one, because honestly, that is a big achievement, especially in the Irish space of athletes. That's definitely an accomplishment. And of course, look, we will definitely be following his journey as he kind of goes along there. So hats off to Alex Dunn. And you know what? You know, even his achievements that he's been getting there in F2, absolutely fantastic. And I'm pretty sure, and I don't know if you guys agree with me on this one, but I have to say I definitely see that guy in a Formula One seat next season. Do you agree with me on that one?
Not sure about next season, but yeah, we'll definitely be for at least maybe 2027. I don't see him going next year.
Yeah, might be a little bit early next year. It's hard to know if certain seats will open up, but yeah, definitely that free practice stint that he had there will do him no harm, and probably put him into the shop window a little bit more, maybe for the new teams coming in. So you know, Cadillac might be an option. You know, it looked like it was Bottas and Perez seemed to be kind of pole position for those two seats. But yeah, Dunn has done his chances no harm there. which is really.
So whenever we get Alex done on the podcast, Alex, if you are listening, we won't have Damien and Isidro because they don't believe in you. It'll just be me, or who knows. I'm just kidding. But look, Alex, if you are a listener of the show, awesome achievement. You know, you've got the entirety of Ireland backing you on that one. It is great to see that there, and hopefully you do manage to secure a seat there in F1. And sure, even if you do and you are a listener, come on the show and tell us all about it. We'd love to have you.
He's way too famous now.
Yeah, exactly. He's too famous to be on our show. No, he's not. We're super famous in the Irish scene, aren't we? But anyway, look, moving on, we do have to talk about this Grand Prix. Now, normally, look, we do kind of go into the whole qualifying thing. We're not really going to go into that too much. I'm just going to quickly gloss over that one and we're going to jump into the race. But of course, look, I'll mention what did quickly happen in qualifying. If you did miss it, Yuki Tsunoda did fall out of there of Q1. Pretty much, he did secure P17. He was complaining there that he had no front grip. And also Carlos Sainz was in the same boat as well. He managed to secure P19 because of possible floor damage. He was complaining about the car, but obviously we will go in and talk about him when we talk about the race. But yeah, definitely a difficult weekend for Red Bull. Bortoleto had a fantastic lap there in Q1 and Q2 to eventually get into Q3 and manage to qualify in P8. Hadjar didn't make it into Q3 pretty much, I think, for the first time. But his friend King, actually, no, do you know what? I'm going to give him a little bit of a break this weekend. He did do very well. So look, Liam Lawson getting into Q3. Well done. That's the only bit of credit I'm giving him all season. But yeah, look, he managed to do that. Verstappen, he qualified P7. He had a bit of a difficult one in qualifying. Red Bull overall just had a very difficult time with that car in quali. And then finally, we had Norris, Leclerc, and Piastri, with Leclerc splitting both of the McLarens there at the top of the grid, going P1, P2, and P3. It was definitely a fun qualifying session to watch, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about the race, and we do need to talk about the elephant in the room, Williams. We do need to talk about them. Now, look, Damien, I know you're a Williams fan, and I know Isidro is also a Williams fan, but I'm going to throw it to you first there, Damien. Firstly, when it comes to Williams, we had Sainz there, couldn't get the car off the grid, and then eventually, pretty much, as I said, I wasn't going to use the phrase that I was going to use from the F1 movie, but he tried to pull a Brad Pitt and then had to go into the pits. And his car basically caught on fire. And then, of course, look, we had Alex Albon, who DNF'd on lap 17. I can't even remember what the issue was. I think it's just he had an engine trouble or something like that. But Damien, what were your thoughts? Like, not even that if there's much to talk about, but more so, I kind of want to ask you, like, is this sort of the start of maybe a major problem for Williams, or what do you think's happening there at the moment? Because we did have the whole Canada thing as well.
So yeah, I think they've probably had at least 3 DNFs maybe in the past handful of races, maybe 3 or 4 races. So yeah, they're running into a little bit of instability and some issues there for sure. So yeah, I could see after Albon went out as well, JV had his head in his hands. He didn't obviously look too happy, but yeah, I think with Carlos,
he wasn't a happy bunny at all.
He wasn't, and he showed it pretty well, which is fair enough, right? You know, 2 cars went out of the race, and it was an awful weekend. And they say it started in qualifying for Carlos when, yeah, there was something wrong with that car, and it wasn't working properly. He was complaining the whole way around, and usually it's a quick car, right? So, you know, 19th or whatever it was he finished in qualifying was pretty poor. You know, that's not usually a Carlos Sainz you know, performance. You usually get something out of whatever car he's in. But yeah, he got stuck on the grid then in first gear. I think it was some sort of gear issue, and immediately was like, yeah, I saw this movie a couple of days ago. You know, pulling a funny haze. You know.
So for this portion, Isidro, just cover your ears, put us both on mute.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Albon had started to go pretty well. I think he was maybe up around 7th or 8th. Up until maybe about lap 12 or 13, he was there or thereabouts. Then he came into pit just after that, and then 3 or 4 laps later, they had to then retire his car, which was obviously the cherry on the cake of an awful weekend for them. But yeah, it was some sort of mechanical issue. I think they were saying it looks to be similar or pretty much the same problem that they had in Canada. So
Yeah.
there's some gremlins running around the back of that car that they can't really get too much of a handle on right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of DNFs back to back, not great. So yeah, they really need to investigate why they're having this kind of unreliability right now when we're, just under halfway through the season, I think. So yeah, they need to work on those, rectify them, and make sure they can turn the corner, so to speak. Because Silverstone is next weekend, right? So
Yeah.
not much time to investigate those things.
No.
So yeah, hopefully maybe we get some performance back for next weekend, but they have an issue that they haven't got a handle of right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. They really need to put on a show for next weekend, especially going into Silverstone. Isidro, what's your take on Williams? What do you think of this whole scenario that they're in at the moment? I mean, like, you have a driver there like Carlos Sainz who, threw all of his eggs into the Williams basket and said, hey, look, this is going to be the right move for me. Well, he didn't really want to move. He was kind of forced out because Mr. Lewis Hamilton wanted his seat. But, like having a driver like that there going through those couple of, scenarios where he just can't get a handle of what's going on with those issues, like it's not so much Sainz, it's obviously the car, but I'm surely that has to take a toll.
Well, first you need to say Sir Lewis Hamilton, not Mr. Not
That's right, Sir Lewis Hamilton going into the weekend of we're actually not there yet, Isidro, so I get away with it this weekend.
Yeah, but if the British media would listen to you, Jesus, we'd be in trouble. But yeah, Williams is definitely on a tough luck wave at the moment with all the DNFs that they've been having, especially considering that they start so well and now these issues. I imagine they are probably experimenting something that is not going as expected. But I think Sainz was aware of this. He knows that Williams' plan is for 2026 onwards. 2025 is more. I think it's surprising how good they are doing, considering they were on the bottom last year, and they are doing fairly well considering everything.
Yeah.
But I think Sainz must learn that he must see the future and not the Williams 2025. But they are definitely on bad luck. It's like they start going downhill, and surprisingly, you see Sauber going uphill. It's just one is getting all the luck, and the other one is getting all the bad luck.
Somebody at Sauber is throwing a few spanners in the works there.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I mean, if you kind of look at it as well, I mean, like this sort of all started in and around Spain, like Albon had his issues, Sainz had his issues as well. And then going into Canada, we had the same thing. And then now we're here at Austria, and it's just, another weekend. Again, just a very, very frustrating one for Williams. And I understand what you mean there. Like, yeah, of course, Sainz, he came onto this going, well, okay, 2025, this is not the year where I grab a load of points and become world champion. James Vowles wants the whole 2026 campaign to be the start of the Williams domination. But I mean, like, hopefully, well, do you know what? All I'm going to say is hopefully we're not sitting here and saying the exact same thing again next year. That's all I'll say. I hope we're not, because for a driver of like that caliber to have Carlos Sainz in your team and to be in the same situation as you were the previous season, it's definitely one that takes a toll, and then eventually you start to look elsewhere. But I'm hopeful. I am hopeful that they can quickly turn this around. But yeah, no, definitely a disappointing weekend for Williams. But moving on, we do need to talk about the next team that had a lot of bad luck. The hometown heroes, Red Bull. Oh my God, they had an awful weekend, not only with Yuki Tsunoda qualifying pretty much at the back of the grid. We also had lap 1, well, technically it was lap 2, that whole incident with Antonelli and Max Verstappen. I mean, you think about all those fans that showed up there this weekend, all there to see Max Verstappen, maybe a few of them there to see Tsunoda, but all there to see Max Verstappen grabbing some points at the Red Bull ring. And then you have Kimi Antonelli going, nope, sorry, straight into the back of Max. I mean, first of all, Damien, what are your thoughts on Red Bull this weekend? I mean, you can kind of see how it's sort of turned into the race from qualifying, you know, like you can kind of see how it progressed. But what was your opinion on Red Bull this weekend?
Yeah, it all started in qualifying, right? So yeah, bad start there, and as you say, Yuki down in 16th or 17th, whatever it was, and Max qualified in seventh, and that was really the writing was on the wall from there. Max qualifying seventh is I can't remember the last time he's done something like that, you know.
I know.
Um, so yeah,
Oh,
when you
wait, no, Brazil last season, and then he came back and then won the race.
well, as I said, I couldn't remember. I'm an old guy now, right? You know, my memory goes back like four races.
Yeah.
Um, what was I going to say there? Yes, turn one, turn two, the whole melee. So yeah, being a bit further back down the grid, you know, he's not used to being in that kind of midfield pack where, you know, the chaos usually happens in those turns and those corners, the first couple of laps. So yeah, the bad qualifying put him right into that, you know, potential, you know, chaos corner. And it happened, you know, Antonelli, I think, you know, sent it down the inside. He saw a chance to take a couple of cars, and he did take a couple of cars, and then he took out a couple of cars, you know. So it was yeah, a little bit of a it was a rookie mistake. It was 100% his fault, and you know, he kind of slammed on the brakes, and yeah, he wouldn't slow down, so he tipped out Max, and obviously Antonelli's car was badly damaged. I didn't really see much damage on Max's car. I'm not sure maybe why he couldn't get going again. You know, obviously the engine stalled or something like that in the collision, but I didn't see too much visible damage. So I thought maybe he might be able to get going again, but then you saw him climbing out of the car. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing because I think we needed Max in this race to kind of, you know, push the two McLaren boys because Ferrari, you know, weren't really showing great race pace over the past couple of weeks. So yeah, I think we needed Max in there to mix things up a little bit. So yeah, that was disappointing to lose him so early. But yeah, that's what happens when you qualify further down. You're leaving yourself open to these situations, you know. But yeah, Max seemed pretty chill actually. You know, obviously there was a little bit of swearing when it happened, but he got out of the car. I was like, "Yeah, are you okay? You're fine." And then afterwards, you know, the race, post-race interviews, he was like, "Yeah, no, these things happen." You know, he came over and he apologized, and I was like, "Where is Max Verstappen? You know, somebody has obviously replaced him here with you know, some sort of bot or something. Usually he'd be a little bit more fiery." So I don't know if he's kind of resigned himself to this season just being a write-off, but yeah, he just didn't seem to be the same Max.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Yuki, of course, going through the race had his issues and collisions everywhere. Yeah, it wasn't a good weekend for Red Bull overall.
Yeah, no, do you know what's funny? There's three tracks that always stand out to me. And like for myself as well, like I do a good bit of sim racing myself. You know, I know Max is a sim racer, so if he's a listener to the show, he might appreciate this one. But no, there's there's three tracks that always stand out to me. There's Spa at turn one, that first hairpin. Every time I'm on Le Mans Ultimate, Formula One, everyone just gets taken out if you're in the midfield. There's Monza, turn one, everyone gets obliterated, and the first maybe one or two get away with the rest of the race. And then finally, it's the Red Bull Ring. If it's not turn one, it's turn two, where everybody gets destroyed. And you can kind of see that translate over to the real world as well. Like even there today, like anytime, like I mean, sure, like even seen it in the F2 races, all the collisions, and especially there at turn two, it's just a death trap, that thing, especially that up right hand corner banking turn. It's just absolutely horrible. But yeah, definitely a difficult weekend for Red Bull for sure. Isidro, what's your take on Red Bull overall this weekend? I mean, you could even hear as well, there was rumors floating around again about this whole, you know, Toto Wolff talking to Max Verstappen and possibly Max Verstappen looking at going to Mercedes, and Horner is like, well, no, it's all noise and stuff. He's with us until, what was it, 27 or 28 or something, or whatever it is. What's your take on Red Bull?
I think Red Bull, the whole weekend was very unlucky, especially in qualifying. We could hear both Max and Yuki complaining about the car, and come to the race. It was even more unfortunate with Kimi looking like a missile, taking Max completely out of the race. And I don't want to create a rumor, but I imagine that tomorrow morning, Kimi will get a little present, a coffee mug saying, best teammate in the world from Russell, because this race definitely helped Russell today in shaving a few points from Max. So I'm not saying it was on purpose. Of course not. It was a rookie mistake, but Russell could make a wink wink and give a coffee mug to Kimi.
Russell goes to Kimi at the end of the race. He's like, okay, who's your rival on the grid? And like, when we go to Silverstone, actually, no, when we don't go to Silverstone, we go to the following weekend, I'll just go straight in. You help me, I help you.
Yeah. Stranger on the train.
Yeah. That's how teammates work. But yeah, look, I mean, you think about the hometown heroes, the Red Bull ring. Red Bull always want to put on a show when you come there to the Austrian Grand Prix. But look, we'll move on. It was definitely a disappointing one. If you're a Red Bull fan, yeah, I think the box of tissues were definitely needed, especially for both drivers. And of course, like, you had Tsunoda and Colapinto colliding there. It was just a whole disaster. Not even able to get any points. Definitely a poor weekend. But anyway, moving on and speaking about Colapinto, let's quickly talk about Alpine. We haven't really spoken about them over the last couple of episodes. They have somewhat been a little bit forgettable when it comes to their overall performance. And I mean, the Constructors' Championship at the moment really does reflect that. I mean, they're there in last place. That car just seems to be an absolute shit show when it comes to any driver who's driving that. I mean, Pierre Gasly was complaining about it all throughout the race. He was like, this car is sliding everywhere. I don't know if that was just more maybe because he was just on older tires. But I mean, it's just they were very, very forgettable. And I mean, you even have Colapinto, who came in here replacing Jack Doohan. I mean, I honestly do believe, I think Doohan got robbed there, and I think he got pulled out too early, because you have Colapinto making all these mistakes. And then also as well, you have this incident today with Piastri almost running him off of the road. And I know his excuse was, oh, I didn't see him. I mean, come on, look, we've all made that excuse now and again. We've been in races or whatever. But I mean, when you're a back marker and you have one of the basically the championship leader coming up your back, you get out of the way regardless if you're in a battle or a heated battle, Damien, what are your thoughts on Alpine over the just not even today, but just even over the last couple of races?
Well, even if you look back over last season as well, they had an awful heavy car right up until maybe about Silverstone or something like that. The word on the street was heavy everywhere. They needed to trim pounds here and there, so it was dog slow even then. And I think they did get a bit of an upgrade package at one point. I can't remember which race it was. And then they got a little bit of performance, but it was still an awful car. And it looks like they haven't really done too much to improve that for this season. And I'm sure Ocon was glad to get moving into a car that's actually somewhat competitive in the Haas. And I don't think Flavio brings the stability that they were really looking for. He's a bit of a maverick, always has been. Sometimes that's a good thing, but cutting Jack Doohan, as you say, after how many races? 5 races, was it?
It's like 5 races, yeah.
Yeah, that's and a rookie as well. Like, you need to give a rookie a season to really know anything about them. If you're going to put a rookie in a seat, that's what you're signing up for. He's not going to get points right away. It could take him until the whole season to really get up to that level. So, and then you're bringing in somewhat of a rookie in Colapinto, who's only had a handful of races in a Williams the previous season, and expecting miracles in what's a pretty, pretty bad car.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really don't see how they move forward, to be honest, unless they're investing all their testing and all their money into 2026. So I don't expect Colapinto to score any points this season. So even if he has the rest of the season, he'll have the same amount of points as Jack Doohan. So
hey, that's an achievement. But like, I mean, even if you look at it though, right? I mean, Alpine, I'm just looking at it here. Like, yeah, look, it's good that they have points, but they only have 11 points and they're at the bottom of the constructors. Sauber are ahead of them with 26. And I mean, if you kind of look at this sort of like what it was last year, I mean, Alpine were still ahead, they weren't last. I mean, Sauber were the ones who were last with literally 0 points. They didn't even pick up a point. I think it was, what was it, until like Qatar, I think it was last season.
Yeah, last race maybe.
Yeah, they got a point with Zhou Guanyu. But I mean, it's just like, if you think about what this team was, like, they were Renault, they were the most dominant team on the track. And of course, you can't really compare from season to season. But when you just think of just like the performance that team has had, winning championships, absolutely dominant, to just being absolute pure muck. I'm sorry, if you're an Alpine fan, you have to call a spade here. McLaren were in the same shoes there not only a couple of seasons ago. And who knows, maybe this is the trick to getting to the top of the championship. You have to have a pure muck car, be at the bottom of the constructors to get back up there to the top. Who knows, maybe with this change to the Alpine engine, I think they're going to Mercedes next season, we might see them on top of the constructors. Lol. But yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of see what you thought of that one. But moving on, Isidro, I want to bring you in on this one. Kick Sauber, boy, let's go. Both cars. I just want to emphasize that, everybody. Both Kick Saubers in the points. P8 and P9. We had Gabriel Bortoleto there in P8 and Nico Hülkenberg there in P9. I know you're not a fan of Hülkenberg this weekend, Isidro, especially when it comes to the predictions. But what are your thoughts overall? What are your thoughts on Kick Sauber this weekend?
I was quite surprised to see Sauber scoring points with both pilots, but it was especially good to see Bortoleto getting his points so early in his rookie year. And Sauber, it's been steadily improving because they start in the very bottom in the beginning and now are slowly getting points. Not at the same Williams level that was consistent, but for the past 3 races they've been less DNF and more points. We saw Hülkenberg. It was Monaco that we saw Hülkenberg there.
Yeah,
and but to see both Sauber cars in the top 10, that's really a surprise, I have to say. Very unexpected, but again, they've been slowly improving race to race. Most of the time Hülkenberg, but there's definitely been improving.
Yeah, like, and I don't want to say it's like it's emotional to see it. It's just, regardless if you have one team that you're a diehard fan of, if you're a Red Bull fan, a Ferrari, McLaren, whatever it is, I think everybody has somewhat of a soft spot for Sauber. You know, like, they are the complete underdog of this championship. They've been in this for so long. You know, we've seen so many iterations of Sauber, collaborations with particular manufacturers, and now this time around streaming services, apparently. But, you know, everyone has somewhat of a soft spot for Sauber. And to see them now gaining quite a lot of considerable amount of points in a very, very tough race. Like, I know, like, when it comes to the Red Bull Ring, it's a very short track, but it really demands a lot from your car. And to see them be able to get double points in that race is just absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm just looking at the Constructors' Championship here as well. I mean, Sauber are only 2 points off of Aston Martin. I mean, like, whoever had that in their 2025 bingo card? You know, like, that is just such an incredible thing here. Damien, what are your thoughts on Sauber? Before we move on to the next couple of teams, what are your thoughts on Sauber?
Yeah, from being, dead last and, nearly scoring 0 points last season. They've had a hell of a summer, that's for sure, or winter. Coming into the new season, the car has looked fast in certain races. It's still obviously not the fastest car out there, but yeah, I think 22 out of their 26 points are from Hülkenberg, which has obviously been a fantastic signing for them. They needed that kind of next level up, in terms of drivers. I think Joe last year and Bottas were just kind of, floating around the track, and the car really wasn't competitive. They were nowhere, which is unfortunate because I think they're both decent enough drivers, So yeah, fair play to them. It's a big turnaround. Obviously Aston Martin have dropped down quite a bit, and they're still very close to them. So yeah, they're in the same ballpark as Red Bull's Haas and Aston Martin now, which is a hell of a turnaround.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah, they've made some good appointments in the backroom staff in terms of team principals and directors, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, fair play to them from going dead last to to 28 points or whatever it is they have this season is a hell of a turnaround.
No, it is for sure. And look, we all know, and it's definitely a fact that, you know, as soon as that Kickstarter badge turns into Audi, we know that they're going to consistently be sitting there in P2 like most Audi drivers that you ever see out in the road, up at the back of everybody. No matter what you do, you're driving on the road, all you see is a freaking Audi badge only 2 feet away from the back of your neck. That's going to be Sauber Audi or whatever they're going to be called next season. So who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be P2 in the constructors next season. That's what I'm predicting. I kid. If you're an Audi driver, no, I'm not. I hate you all. But anyway, moving on to the next team, Ferrari. Isidro, we were quickly talking about this before we started recording here today. Ferrari, look, it's great. Look, they both got double points again, P3 and P4. We had Charles there in P3 getting on the podium and Hamilton coming in there in P4. But they were just, and you know what? One of the commentators actually really summed this up quite well. They were just kind of out in no man's land with their own sort of race pace. I mean, you had both McLarens out there. What was it, about 26 seconds or something ahead of Lewis Hamilton. This is the thing I was talking about to you earlier on. Like, you could see him after the race just looking at the timing boards, shaking his head. I mean, this is another weekend again where I'm going to ask the question, do you think Hamilton made a mistake? What do you think, Isidro?
Yeah, I think on one side is always very prestigious to be a Ferrari driver, have the red overalls. But the other is living the reality of being a Ferrari driver. And that's something we can see. LeClerc can spend hours in therapy talking about that. And I'm pretty sure Hamilton is starting to go into the same sessions. And this weekend, Ferrari did well. I mean, they did P3, P4, but we barely noticed them on track. They did well, but maybe if they screw up, we would probably notice them more. But they need to definitely improve. Especially Hamilton was always doing questions and not getting the answers that he was expecting. He wants to know about the car, about the tires, about the best strategy to possible get the podium. Forget about winning a race. That's out of the equation for Ferrari at the moment.
No, for sure. You know, as a Ferrari fan myself, like, look, I don't want to say, it's a shame to admit it, they are my number one team. I am a Ferrari fan. I love Ferrari. You know what? I'm not ashamed to say that, but it's just, oh my God, I don't know what they're doing. But at the same time too, I complain about them. We make these judgments on them, but I feel like they're that kind of team where they do absolutely nothing. But right now they're sitting in P2 in the constructors with, hang on, if I can get it up here. That's what she said. With 210 points. 210 points. Like, I know obviously, yeah, look, they're 1 point ahead of Mercedes, who are sitting in P3 at the moment, but they're just literally, they're not really doing much. Like, with the amount of complaining that we've done as fans, that Lewis Hamilton has done in terms of complaining, Charles Leclerc has done in complaining. I mean, they come out there with a P3 and P4 and they're sitting in P2 in the constructors. They're doing actually really, really well. But of course, they're light years behind when it comes to McLaren. So I can somewhat see the frustration there. It's quite obvious because McLaren are just light years ahead. But yeah, it's so difficult to watch them every weekend. Like, even when they do have a good one, like for example, this weekend, you just still see Lewis Hamilton complaining. And it's just, I'm sick of it. I really am. Like, I don't even know how long this contract is when it comes to Lewis Hamilton. But do you know what? I was a fan of Lewis Hamilton for a very long time. I still am. I do like Hamilton. I think he's a great driver. 7 drivers' championships. I mean, that stands to his name. You can't argue with fact. But if he were to say at the end of the season, I'm done, I'm leaving, I'd be like, you know what? Good. You know, because I think you even kind of see it yourself. Like, when it comes to most sort of sports, you see younger drivers coming in and kind of the older dogs, they start to struggle, especially when it comes to younger athletes and stuff like that. Like, we've seen that between Hamilton and Max when it came to the whole build up to 2021. But it's just like, you can really see him moving towards that sort of category of, I'm kind of done here now. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, you are. But I don't think Hamilton would if there was a possibility to leave, I don't think he would leave, because he made a tough decision of leaving Mercedes after all these years. Would not be him just to leave Ferrari after the first year.
Yeah.
especially considering like we were talking about before, how prestigious it is to be a Ferrari driver. So even though
Mm.
he complains, I think we're going to see Hamilton finishing his career with Ferrari.
Well, hopefully, but hopefully he stops complaining. That's all I'll say.
I don't think he will stop complaining, but
Oh, no.
regardless of. But look, Damien, I would bring you in again on Ferrari, but there isn't really much else to talk about because they were just kind of out there in no man's land. But look, I'll bring you in on the next team, McLaren. Oh my God, that whole battle between Norris and Piastri. I think there was a lot of us who were sitting there this afternoon with our hearts in our mouth, thinking to ourselves, oh my God, this is going to be a Canada 2.0 situation. But you know what? They actually delivered a really, really good battle. And like the one point I want to try and make here today, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me or both of you will agree with me on this one, but that kind of racing today between Piastri and Norris, I really feel it really showed the kind of caliber that each driver is. You know, like you seen Piastri, he made a few mistakes. He made one big mistake, but he still didn't manage to take out Lando Norris. Compared to what you kind of look at how Norris was going around the track there, he was really struggling to keep Piastri off of his back. You know, like I know obviously when the first stint was over, he came into the pits and he got ahead and he had that gap or whatever like that. But even coming up to the end of the race, Piastri really made sure that he was back on the back of Norris. You know, you could really see the difference there. And then when you look at Canada, you look at Lando Norris, you look at Piastri. Lando Norris, I know he held his hands up and said, yeah, I made the mistake, it was my fault or whatever. But I really feel that this race really showed the caliber of both drivers. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, they're very good, aren't they? Yeah, it was a great race, and it was a bit unfortunate the way the last one finished with I think Norris having a bit of a head stagger situation where he went for it and tried to take him on the grass and ended up in the wall. But obviously they've had some discussions internally about papaya rules, or the way they race. And I think a couple of times, I think it was Piastri's race engineer was on the radio to him. He's like, look, in the 50-50s, just take it easy. Do it if it's on. But if not, obviously they didn't want them taking one car or taking both cars out. That's obviously disastrous at this point of the season where they need to, keep on top and get those 1-2 finishes on the board. But yeah, Norris, a good comeback from him, because obviously his confidence took a bit of a bashing from the last time around. And, again, we were talking about he has a little bit of maybe a little bit mentally weak sometimes, whereas Oscar is, the kind of cool as a cucumber, very focused kind of guy. So yeah, fair play to Lando for stepping up and really bringing home the win this race. So Oscar obviously made it really, really tough for him. There was, 3-4 occasions throughout the race where they were battling. I think Piastri briefly got it for one corner, and then Norris immediately got it back. So there was some great battles there. And yeah, there was a period, I think, when they were doing their pit stops and stuff like that. Maybe he was about 5 or 6 seconds behind, but then he started really push again. He got back up to about 1.7 seconds, and he's like, yeah, this is on now for the for the finish. But yeah, unfortunately, I think they both kind of got really caught up in the back markers, if you can say 7th and 8th, or the back markers, because that's where they were getting up to. I think they got caught in that battle with Alonso and Bortoleto for 7th and 8th, and I think obviously Colapinto as well. They got Piastri got into a little bit of a scuffle with him when they were coming through those cars a little bit further back. So yeah, they were a little bit of a victim of their own success today. They were just so fast and so far ahead that when it got to the end, Oscar's chances of really trying to push to tick Lando were just scuppered by those back markers. So yeah, but yeah, it was brilliant race from the both of them. It was fair racing. There was nothing dirty, and yeah, I kind of, you have to admire the way McLaren are just letting the two of them race. Obviously at certain times they'll say, look, lads, cool it down or whatever, but it's just like, yeah, go for it. You're open season, which is great. It's a bit of a breath of fresh air where some more structured teams, in the past have been a little bit, very much in terms of, let him by, not your race, blah, blah, blah. Maybe over the Mercedes Lewis era, we saw a lot of that. So, yeah, they double the points of Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship now. They're just
Yeah.
miles ahead of everybody else. Like it's not a case of if, but when they win the championship, which one of the two is it going to be?
Yeah.
It's really a toss up. If you're a betting man, you might edge slightly with Oscar, but it's going to be very close.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I think at this stage we know the constructors is going to McLaren, but you're totally right there. It's just it's just a waiting game to see when and where who is going to get that drivers' championship between Lando and Oscar. But Isidro, I want to ask you the question. I mean, they are racing drivers. If Piastri didn't have any of those back markers, do you think he would have had that P1 today?
Yes.
I love it.
I
Just
think,
yes.
yeah, because I think Piastri was definitely fighting for the win today, and I think the last five races, the last 5 laps with those back markers in the middle, kind of ruined his race, because he was definitely going after Norris, but in the race overall, I think Norris was surprisingly good, and Piastri was the one making not big mistakes, but small mistakes that were enough at the end of the race to make him second and not first. It was like today, you could see like Scooby-Doo. If you take Norris helmet, it will be Piastri there, and if you do the Piastri, see Norris, but Norris did a very good race, and it truly deserved. But I think without those pesky Bortoleto, Alonso, Colapinto drivers, I think we would see Piastri going for the kill and get that P1.
Just love this Scooby-Doo reference. I would have got away with it too if it weren't for you pesky kids. Oh man, that was good. Oh, that was brilliant. I love it. Isidro, that's the comment of the day. But anyway, folks, look, that was the Austrian Grand Prix. Isidro takes home the not the fastest lap, but the best comment of the day. He gets P1 in the constructors for that one. But yes, look, that was the Austrian Grand Prix. To quickly go through our top 10, we had Lando Norris, of course, there in P1, bringing home that victory. We had Piastri in P2. Leclerc finally made it around the track after the McLaren boys had eventually packed up and had flown back over to England for the Silverstone race. He eventually came in P3 there. Hamilton, he came there in P4. We had Russell in P5. Lawson came in P6. I'm not going to give him any shit. Look, no. Do you know what? Just for that, Damien. Just for that. Do you know what? King Dick, screw you.
Yeah,
I just see.
Kudos. Really.
Just see Damien in the background going, yes, come on, Lawson. No, okay, look, I'll hold my hands up. Well done, Liam Lawson, coming in P6 there. But anyway, Fernando Alonso in P7, Gabriel Bortoleto in P8, Nico Hulkenberg in P9, and then Esteban Ocon in P10. That was your top 10. But to quickly go through it there, folks, we had Sainz, who did not start at all. We had Verstappen, who DNF'd, Antonelli, who DNF'd, and then Alexander Albon, who also DNF'd. Folks, I want to know your driver of the day, your dick of the day, and your loser of the day. Damien, who was your DDL?
Yeah, driver of the day has to be Bortoleto. Yeah, fair play to him. He had a great weekend, great race, and yeah, his first points finish for a rookie. So yeah, has to be him. A couple of other shouts, but yeah, Bortoleto I think gets the nod today, for me anyway. Loser of the day. Oh, yeah, it was a bit of a toss up between Red Bull and Williams. It was, it's a tough one. Both of them have disastrous weekends for slightly different reasons, but yeah, I think I have to go with Red Bull, Max on this one. You know, the qualifying, they screwed up both cars in qualifying, and yeah, he gets caught up in the pack and gets into that collision and he's gone, you know, and if Max is gone, then there's no points for Red Bull, is there? So yeah. Loser of the day was Red Bull, Max for me. And dick of the day, going to Red Bull as well. Yuki causing 2 collisions. I was like, after the first one, I was like, oh, he's lucky not to get penalized for that. And then he hit, it was the second time, Colapinto the second time, I think. And I was like, yeah, he's going to get a penalty for this one for sure. So, and yeah, he got 10 seconds for that. The way he was driving today, he was just a little bit reckless here and there. So, yeah, he was my dick of the day.
You leave Yuki alone. He's only trying to hold on to that second seat. He's got Helmut Marko.
I don't think anybody can.
You have Helmut Marko in the back of the paddock there with a gun to his head going, you better score some motherfucking points. He's like, okay, I will. I'll do it by any means necessary. It means taking out an Argentinian. But anyway, Isidro, what was your DDL?
So for driver of the day, Bortoleto, he definitely deserves. It was an excellent qualifying. It was a very good race. And I was split between Bortoleto and Hülkenberg because Hülkenberg went from P20 to P9. So, and that's also a very good, but Bortoleto definitely driver of the day. Being P8 and keeping that position at the end of the race, considering that he was a Sauber and it was his first time fighting among the giants and he survived. So Bortoleto for driver of the day. Loser, I'm going with Williams. They are definitely on a bad luck strike. Again, both cars, signs on fire. Yeah, definitely not the best weekend for Vowels again. And
he's on fire!
And not for the good reasons. And for Dick of the Day, I agree with Damien. Yuki, he was definitely being a dick on the race. He could take the opportunity that Max was out so early in the race, and you could make Red Bull shine, but Yuki didn't took that chance and just went doing Yuki things and just crash here and there.
Look, you leave Yuki alone. He's just he's just trying to follow in the footsteps of Max Verstappen. I mean, the car is built around him. What else can he do? If he's like, right, if I can't drive like him, I'll try and drive like him.
Try not to crash against other drivers.
Well, yeah, no, I have to agree on that one. But my driver of the day, of course, look, I'm going to agree with you guys as well. Bortoleto, hats off to him, up there with the big boys, coming in there in P8, amazing drive, and even that battle at the very end with Alonso, that was fantastic. Dick of the day, I'm giving it to Franco Colapinto. I'm going to give it to him because I'm sorry, that whole incident there with Piastri, and look, I'm sorry, I know you guys hate Yuki and all that kind of shit, but look, Colapinto, that whole incident there, I was like, what a dick. That was just the phrase I used. I was like, what a dick. And I was like, he's my dick of the day. But then also my loser of the day, the entire Red Bull team. Holy shit, they had an awful weekend. I have to give it to them because, I mean, come on, it's the Red Bull ring. It's you're there to put on a show for your fans. You don't even put on the show. I would be furious if I was sitting there as a diehard Red Bull fan. I would be. So yeah, that goes to the Red Bull team. Now, folks, we're moving on to our predictions. This is going to be a good one because I quickly flicked it open over here on my screen. And
another disaster.
This is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one. But look, we'll get into it. Of course, look, as always, the guys did send over their predictions for the Austrian GP. So starting off with Dave. Oh, this is going to be a good one. So Dave had Norris in P1, Piastri in P2 and Leclerc in P3. All top three correct this weekend for Dave. Oh my God, that is incredible. Well done, Dave. And then his flop was Hülkenberg outside the top 10. Womp womp. And that's going to kind of be somewhat of a consistent one for everyone this weekend. And that's then
1 through 3 right for the season. So yeah, well done, Dave.
Yeah, well, 1, 2, 3. That is incredible. But then also his surprise was Hajar inside the top 10. So 0 points there. But he did pick up 3 points, which was pretty awesome. Now, Owen had Max in P1. A bit disappointing in that one. Piastri in P2, which he did pick up a point for. And also Leclerc in P3. So he did pick up 2 points. Now, moving on to his flop and surprise. He had Ocon outside the top 10, which was 0 points for that one. And then he had Bortoleto inside the top 10. So he picked up 3 points. So both of them on 3 points this weekend. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this so much, Damien, is because I'm looking at you at the top of that leaderboard. Isidro, what were your predictions?
Oh, I got Piastri P1, Max P2, and Norris P3. Disappointment all around.
Yep.
And then Ocon outside top 10 and Adjar inside top 10. So more disappointment. Sad trombone.
And I said it to you last weekend or the last episode. I was like, I guarantee Austria is going to be the weekend where Hulkenberg gets inside the top 10. And you were like, nope, it's not going to happen.
Not only Hulkenberg, but Bortoleto was also there. So
I know, both Saubers. Now, my predictions, unfortunately, I got bitten in the bum as well. Not so much, though. I did manage to secure a point out of this. I had Russell in P1, which was a no-no burger. I had Piastri in P2, which I did get a point for. Max in P3, lol. And then Ocon outside the top 10, and then Hadjar inside the top 10. So I only picked up 1 point, which brings us on to Damien. Damien, would you like to run us through your points or not your points? Sorry, I'm skipping ahead here. Would you like to run us through your predictions?
I would not. No. I had Piastri P1, close but no cigar. I had Russell P2, which obviously didn't happen, and Max P3, which is a 0. And then I had Ocon outside the top 10 for my flop. And he obviously finished in 10th, so that was close. And then I had Yuki inside the top 10, which is also a nothing burger. So yeah, 0 all round. I had a Max Verstappen weekend.
You had a bit of a Max Verstappen weekend, but it also appears that you're kind of having a bit of a Max Verstappen season, because it looks like Owen has taken over P1 in the predictions championship. Because Owen is now on 20 points. Damien is on 18. Dave has now overtaken me for third. He's now on 14 points. I'm currently on 12. And Isidro, you are on 8 points. So well done to Owen. He is now P1 in the championship. How does it feel, Damien? How does it feel?
You know, when you're at the top, there's a target on your back. So you kind of, you know.
Oh my God, pulling the most Christian Horner statement ever. Oh my God.
You know, go with the best when you get pushed into a corner. You know, let's see what happens next week.
That's it. All I'll say is simply lovely. I kid. But anyway, look, we do have to move on to the predictions for next weekend. Of course, look, the guys did send in their predictions, Dave and Owen. Dave, he has Norris, Piastri, and Hamilton as his P1, P2, and P3. He has Bortoleto as his flop, so being outside the top 10. And then he also has Hadjar inside the top 10. Moving on to Owen, he has Lando, Piastri, and Russell as his P1, P2, and P3. He has Hulkenberg outside the top 10 as his flop, and then Hadjar inside the top 10 as his surprise. There's pretty much going to be a recurrent theme here for the rest of us. Isidro, do you want to run me through your predictions real quick?
I have Piastri P1, Max P2, and Russell P3. And then my flop is Bortoleto outside the top 10 and surprise Adjar inside top 10. Nice.
And you know what? I'd say we're definitely going to pick up a couple of points from our flops and surprises for sure.
Hopefully. I need those.
Sorry, Damien. Sorry, no. Sorry. These opinions are for people who score points.
Well, then what's your opinion doing here? Then you're back in what, 12 points? You're in an Alpine at the moment.
No, I'm the Alpine. Aiden is a Sauber.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No. I'm Mercedes. I got upgraded to Mercedes. Remember, Toto gave me a call. I've now moved to Mercedes for a couple of races.
More like a Haas. Let's say Haas. Yeah.
Okay. But look, you know, I did come out with at least 1 point this weekend. But anyway,
what does season make? Let's go.
That can make a big difference. In the championship. But anyway, moving on. I'm going to have Norris, Piastri, and Russell as my P1, P2, and P3. I have Bortoleto outside the top 10 and Hadjar inside the top 10 as my flop and surprise. And Damien, give us your predictions for your comeback for next weekend.
1 through 3, I'm going with Piastri, Norris, and Charles Leclerc. and Bortoleto as my flop outside the top 10, and the surprise Hadjar inside the top 10.
Awesome. Okay. Well, look, hopefully that's how it ends up, and hopefully you're able to take that crown back next weekend over Owen. But Owen can rest easy going right through this week, knowing he's in P1 in the championship. I just have to do it. I have to make it spicy, you know. We love those little rivalries here on the late night race review. But anyway, look, guys, thank you so much for giving me your predictions. It was fun as always talking about the Austrian Grand Prix. Definitely a weekend full of laughter, a lot of tears for a lot of people from a lot of teams, but it definitely was a great weekend. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk about the race. It's always good to chat to you about that.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
That's good. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, look, folks, until next time, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Well, actually, no, this is Monday. You'll be listening to this. So enjoy the start of your week until we see you the next time at Silverstone. Adios.